What's going on, everyone? My name is Talon Sai and you are watching Sunday GUNDAY. I hope you're all having a great Sunday so far. I'm very late to the party on this one and I'm completely aware of that, but today we're taking a look at the Springfield Hellcat Pro. Now, I was included in sort of like the media release. Whenever new gun companies come out with something new to their product line, they typically send it out to a bunch of different people who have a voice in the 2A community, and they're looking for reviews and just feedback for customers out there to become educated and know what they're getting into with these new platforms. So, like I said, I'm very late to this party. This right here is the media kit that it sort of came in. Really nice, like almost leather feeling box, Hellcat Pro on there. You guys get a first look at what this thing's actually gonna look like. Now, as we open this thing up, confidential until March 4th. As I'm filming this video, it's not too far past that date, but unless you're catching this on Patreon, where all of these videos go live way earlier than they actually hit the channel, there's a good chance that you're watching this well after the release date, and these things are out there, there's reviews of them, and there's a ton of information available. So, I had the chance to take this thing out and shoot it just the other day, and I'm pleasantly surprised with how this thing performed. Before we get into all the details, I will show you guys kind of how this thing comes. Here is the platform itself, Hellcat Pro. 2 different magazines. If you buy this gun now today, it's not going to come with this box and this exact setup. However, on this media kit, they did come with a black point holster, which I did use throughout the review, and then a few other accessories over here. You got a speed loader for the magazine. You have some tools for the new Springfield Optic, which we're definitely going to talk about. And then in here, just a bunch of information about the firearm like you get with any firearm purchase. So, with all of that out of the way, let's talk about the new Springfield Hellcat Pro. With the new Hellcat Pro, Springfield Armory essentially has taken everything that was good about the Hellcat and made it a lot better, in my opinion. It's combining the performance and feeling of a larger handgun, but still keeping it in a relatively small package. The Hellcat Pro is chambered in 9mm that gives you 15-in-1 capacity and a smaller footprint than other guns out on the market. I'm probably going to be comparing this to a Glock 19 quite often throughout this video. The Pro version is Optic ready, and this one did come fit with a new Springfield Armory Hex Wasp. This is a little micro red dot optic with a battery capacity that will supposedly last 65,000 hours. It has a 3.5 MOA red dot, it's parallax free, and it has an auto dimming functionality as well. It is a scratch resistant and anti-glare coated glass, and it does come with a waterproof rating of IPX7. Now, the overall dimensions of the Hellcat Pro are just a little bit bigger all around compared to the regular Hellcat, coming in with a 3.7-inch barrel. The grip is extended, so it's a little bit longer and it fits my hand almost perfectly now. And then there are a lot of other features that you will find on other Springfield guns, like up front, the guide rod has texturing on it, which is good to use as a standoff, that way the gun does not slip around. This is really made as an EDC self-defense pistol. Up top for the sights, the front sight post is nice and bright green with a little bit of a tritium insert in there, that way you can see it at night, and then the rear has a U-notch. And also on top you will find a loaded chamber indicator, which is also a nice touch if you're not familiar with press checking your gun. There are fairly shallow serrations in both the front and the rear, and then the texture remained the same from the original. It's a really mild texture, not really aggressive at all, but it does wrap around the full grip, and you also have index points towards the front of the frame. With this longer frame, you do have an accessory rail up front for whatever light you may want to run, and then the trigger. The trigger feels mainly the same as the original, but I do have some thoughts about that. So let's go out and shoot this thing, and then I will come back and give you guys some more detailed thoughts on the Hellcat Pro. So this red dot is no longer working. We'll talk about it more in the end, but for now we're gonna see if we can get a little bit of distance out of a tiny little package like this. Tricky in the wind. Alright guys, back from putting a couple hundred rounds through the new Springfield Armory Hellcat Pro. I'm going to be completely honest with you. When they first released the Hellcat, the original Hellcat, I did do a review of that. I'll leave a link for it in the cards or somewhere here throughout this video. I wasn't super stoked on it because Springfield was kind of late to the party when it came to releasing a pistol in that category. I'm happy that they did though, because this type of firearm is really hot in the market right now. It's what most people are choosing to carry, and I completely understand why. Something that is small, lightweight, compact, really easy to shoot, good capacity. The Hellcat Pro now does have a higher capacity than the original Hellcat, which I like, without adding any of like the extra magazine bottoms or anything like that. The original Hellcat was something that Springfield needed to release to stay competitive with all of the other options that are out there on the market. I'm talking about the Glock 43Xs, the SIG 365s, and everything in that kind of category. So my expectations on this Hellcat Pro were not like super high. I was kind of excited to see what the differences were, but after taking it out on the range and shooting it, I really like this gun. So starting with the actual touch points of this gun, as soon as I put this in my hand, it feels way better than the original Hellcat because you're getting more of like a full-size grip. You have the nice touch points on each side of the frame, but at the same time it's still slim, a lot slimmer than a Glock 19. So you're getting sort of Glock 19 characteristics, which is like the Honda Civic of all guns. It's very neutral as far as size go and features. It's has good capacity. So this gun kind of does all of that, but puts it in even a smaller package. Here it is inside of the holster. This black point holster I actually really like. They have two black clips on there with some like bulging out on the bottom and also a wing sort of built in. That way you're not going to print as much. This gun probably wouldn't print very much as it is just because of how small and the form factor of it. But drawing a gun that I'm really not super familiar with yet and out of a holster that I'm not super familiar with yet, it was really smooth, felt great, and we got some shots on target, obviously. So the texture on here I think could be a little bit more aggressive. I would be afraid to carry this thing every day for an extended amount of time because generally texture will sort of wear down because it is just polymer. However, right from the get-go, it feels good. If my hands were sweaty or muddy or bloody, wet for whatever reason, you may run into a little bit of traction issues there, but overall this gun is not super snappy when compared to the original Hellcat because of the larger slide on top. Now for this slide, like I mentioned, the serrations are not super aggressive. You can definitely tell that they're there, but I would like to see them make them a bit more aggressive. The metal is obviously not going to wear down, but it's sort of like the same thought process as the grip. The grip will definitely wear down over time, like almost every gun does, but I just want a little bit more traction there. If my hands are sweaty and I'm out there in the summertime, I feel like I'll still be able to manipulate the slide, especially with an Optic on top there, but I would like to see them make that just a little bit more aggressive. And then for the sights, starting with the iron sights, I actually shot that entire video using the iron sights, and we'll explain a little bit more once we get to this Optic. The sight picture is really nice and easy to pick up. I don't generally shoot with a U-dot in the rear like you have on here, but it worked great. You do have tritium in the front sight post, so this thing is super bright at night, and it could be good as a nightstand gun, just a general everyday carry gun. And then the Optic, the one good thing that I like about the Optic is the overall footprint and form factor of it. It looks like a really nice Optic. They do have a dovetail cut into the rear, that way you can actually co-witness with the iron sights. If this Optic did not have that, this video would not have happened. So I received this Hellcat a few weeks ago. I pulled it out of the box and was kind of getting a feel for it, checking out all the features and everything. And this Springfield Armory Hex Wasp was working great. Now this is sort of similar to the Shield RMSC where there are no levels of adjustment. There is a sensor in there, so it's sort of going to adjust to the light in the environment where you are shooting. So everything about this optic looked great, aesthetically pleasing. I really like the way that it looks. There's a little bit of traction in the rear. It has a big hood in the front, so it will sort of cut down on any kind of glare. But then when I took it out to the range, it was only sitting in the box for maybe a couple weeks. Took it out, push it out on target, and then I realized it was on, but it was super faint. So I could tell almost right from the beginning of the video and actually testing this thing out on the range that the battery had already died. I really want to test out this optic and give it a good review. However, time didn't allow for it. I did not have a spare battery to throw in here. I haven't actually even taken this off of here yet, so I don't know what battery it takes. But once I swap that out, I'm definitely going to test it a little bit more. I'm not going to knock Springfield a whole lot for that. It could be just because it's a new optic. There may be a parasitic draw. Maybe they put bad batteries in it to begin with. If I was a customer buying this gun, definitely wouldn't be stoked on that. So if you are in the market for an EDC gun like this or an optic, the Springfield Hex Wasp, hopefully you have spare batteries and hopefully that's just like a one-off thing. I really am bummed that that thing is dead because I really wanted to check it out. It looks like a cool optic. It looks pretty bomb-proof. Like, I'll slam that off my desk all day and I don't know. It looks good. I just wish the battery life was there because there must be an issue with it. Now moving back down to the frame for all the other controls. All the controls on here are great. Really positive release of the mag. The takedown lever and the slide stop on here, very easy to manipulate. I was able to throw a mag in and close the slide with just my thumb. Little to no pressure. It is really small, but if you look at it from the top, there is plenty of a ledge there to get your finger on and close this thing up. It is not ambidextrous, so if you're a left-handed shooter, you're gonna have to kind of mess with your trigger finger. But for any righties out there, I can definitely close this, even with an unloaded mag in there. Nice and easy. Now last but not least, the trigger. The trigger is something that actually surprised me on the original Hellcat. My previous Springfield XD triggers were never that great. So when the Hellcat released, I was pretty surprised with the trigger. It felt way better than anything else that I've shot from Springfield before, aside from their 1911s and stuff like that, of course. And if we take a close-up look at this trigger, it looks relatively the same, but I think it shot better than the original. Now, right out of the box, it didn't feel great. There's definitely a break-in period, so there's a trigger safety here. I'll pull back. Right there's the initial wall. And now there is quite a bit of creep. There it was. So this trigger actually got better just from putting a couple hundred rounds through it. The reset, it's definitely audible. It's not super tactile. You can feel it in your finger, but overall, I think it's a very adequate trigger for an EDC gun. Now, one of the things that I really like about this trigger is actually how it's positioned on the frame. For some reason, this frame in my hand and right where that trigger breaks, it's like the perfect pull length. Some guns, the trigger is set a little bit farther forward, or some guns like the 365, it's positioned way far back. So when you have a really skinny, narrow grip and your trigger is breaking like way in the back here, it becomes uncomfortable to shoot. This Hellcat Pro, on the other hand, though, it fits my hand like perfectly. Although there is a little bit of creep in that trigger, I know exactly when it's going to break, and if I had a battery for this red dot, I definitely would have shot it super accurately the whole day. When you're shooting iron sights through an optic that is no longer working, you're still going to get a little bit of glare from the glass on there. So it's not ideal to shoot iron sights through something like this. But like I mentioned with the dovetail cutout in the rear, it still works great, and I really got to get a battery for this optic and put the Hex Wasp through its paces. So overall, I think Springfield did a really good job. Is this going to replace me carrying or using a Glock 19 as a bedside gun? No, probably not. But maybe for someone who's on a little bit tighter of a budget, you can probably find these a little bit cheaper than a Gen 5 Glock 19. They're offering options with the optic on here. I believe they also have a ported version as well, which would make this thing shoot even flatter. This thing was honestly not very snappy because of the larger grip, the heavier slide on top. It makes it reciprocate just a little bit slower than the original Hellcat. And I think Springfield did a really good job with this. I just wish that red dot was working. So if you guys have any questions on the Springfield Armory Hellcat Pro, let me know in the comments down below. If I can find a battery and time to get back out to the range, I definitely want to put this through its paces a little bit more, because if that optic was working, you throw a light on there, this thing could be a kick-ass EDC gun. So if you have any questions on it, let me know in the comments down below. If you are new to this channel, consider clicking subscribe because I make new videos every week. As always, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you in the next one.